Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we're gonna be putting this car on the ground. And not just off jack stands and on the ground, but like literally side skirts to the ground. That's how low I want this thing. And yesterday, okay, I don't want you guys to be mad, but yesterday I got Harinder to come over. Harinder is my wheel and suspension guy. Whenever I have questions, he comes over or I go to him. We talk about it, try and figure it out. And yes, I should have been filming it, but I wasn't. So in the last video where we were working on this car, I got the wheel fitment to look good on the passenger side, but the driver's side we were having issues. So I said that we might need to get a wheel spacer. And then Harinder came over, we talked about it, we were messing around, and he's like, oh, try this. I'm like, okay, and we were trying it. I was just wrenching a little bit, and then we ended up getting it good. And then as soon as I finished, I was like, shit, I should have filmed it. So I'm sorry about that, guys, but I'll just tell you exactly what I did. But look at this wheel fitment now. I have this thing slammed. Like this, you can stick a finger in there, but like, this coilover is like pretty well shot, so it's not gonna droop and it won't go up any higher. So that's where it's gonna be really sitting. But I raised the suspension on this side and then look at the camber that we have. So yeah, got this thing more flush because before it was sitting way in. And the way that I did that is the adjustment for the lower control arm, I just pushed it way out and that brought the whole entire wheel out, gave me the camber that I'm wanting. Then we also raised the coilover, not raised, we made it lower. We like adjusted the coilover to make the car sit lower. So that brought the wheel up and then the lower control arm pushed it out and it made it perfect. So for this side, I'm pretty sure we need to maybe raise it a little bit, but we just need to get a smidge more camber, but I don't want the wheel to come out. This thing's already maxed out, so there's nothing we can do there. So basically, that top bolt right there, you just need to take it out and then ovalize this thing. You just put a drill bit in there and hog the hole out that way. So you can loosen it, then push the whole thing forward in more, then tighten the bolt. So yeah, that's what we need to start with. And then this thing is gonna be slammed. I was having trouble sleeping last night because I just was thinking about how I wanted to do this. And then like, it's making me really excited because like, this is how I want it to look. And for the longest time, it's looked all right, but it's not how I really wanted it to look. So I'm excited to see this thing on the ground. And then also, Harinder came over. We're gonna try and fix this paint. There's one bad drip there, and then right there too. We're gonna try and fix all that stuff. Sometime in the future, we're gonna be wet sanding this whole entire car. Try and make the paint look nice, because if you guys see this in person, when you guys see this in person, it looks a little rough, and I don't want it to look like that, because all the time and effort that I'm putting into this, I want it to look good, you know? All right, so I'm just gonna take out this bolt, drop the whole entire thing, and just start reaming out these holes. One right there, one right there. So we got that disconnected, and you guys can kind of tell how that top bolt is ovalized. So we just need to make it more ovalized so we can slide the whole thing like that a little bit more. And I got this drill ready, and I'm just gonna put it through the hole and just almost have it sideways and just really push on it that way. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. That is definitely more rounded than that. So I'm just gonna put it back up into there and hopefully it works. So we really gotta make sure we're pushing on that. Okay, so I have it jacked up a little bit, but the problem is like, yeah, it's inside the fender well. I just don't know where it's gonna be at ride height. So the only really way to figure that out is either I jack it up, put the Jeep wheels underneath and then put some 2x4s under, or I put it on the ground. And the problem with putting it on the ground, it takes about half an hour to jack it up and then put it back down. That's the only issue. It takes up a lot of time because you got to jack up the front, then the back, front, back, then the front, then the back up one more time. Just because the thing's so low and it has the side skirts, and honestly it's gonna be a lot worse now that I've completely lowered it. And then I don't want to put it down on the ground until I have the backs done because then I have to re-jack it up. So I think I'm gonna do the Jeep wheel thing. So that's quite in there. So you guys probably heard that. When I was turning the wheel, all that creaking sounds that you heard, that's the car trying to fall off the jack stand. So we're not gonna do that. I think I like it there. I just went back and rewatched that little clip of how much the wheel turned, and it kind of looked like it avoided the fender, so we're gonna leave it there. Now it's on to the rear. I'm the most excited for the rear because that's gonna be the biggest transformation in a while, because the front kind of got it like that the other day when I was doing the control arms. The rear has always been this height, and that is just not good. Okay. So these are new calipers, new pads, and obviously it's not wearing nicely because I have never driven the car really. That's not what we're here for. What we're here to do is to raise this. Now the issue is I didn't take a mental note on how high to raise it. Let's just double it. Whatever it's at, go half. I think it looks like about a, so that's what? 4-inch gap. Let's raise it like 2 inches and just see what happens. Oh wow, that's heavy, hold on. There it is. Okay, we got this thing in the vise. Now let's try and break it free. This is 3 5/8. Let's bring it down to 2. There she is. Nice and loose. Look how bad these shocks are. Guys, I promise to you, one day I will buy new shocks. It's just, money's tight right now. And it's an expensive thing when I'm having fun doing this, you know? Like, who doesn't like working with blown suspension? Okay, so that's where we want it, but we're gonna leave it tight just so we have adjustment to put it in. There she is. Bolts kind of tight. That bottom one's super tight. So I just want to test. So I'm going to put the jack under it and see how much give that shock has. If it doesn't have much, then we don't really have to test it when it's dropped down. So we'll just test fit the wheels in it now. All right, let's see how much it goes. Okay, that shock works a bit. Well, let's test fit the wheels. That is low. Holy. Look at that. That is crazy. That's what we're looking for. This thing is going to be dumped. Okay, so now we just got to do the other side, and I need to take off the front wheel. So I'm going to jack it back up because I'm not sure I tightened the collars on the coilover. So I want to make sure I did that because I probably did, but I'm just second guessing myself, and that's the worst thing because I got to have a lot of trust in this thing, right? So, but as soon as I get that one corner done, we're ready to drop it, and I am so excited to see this thing. Alrighty, so we are done. You guys can't really tell, but the fender lines up perfectly with the top of the sidewall there. Same thing on this side. I just gotta take off this wheel, tighten the collar, put on the lug, and then I still gotta do the driver's side one, and then it's ready to be on the ground. Like, even just standing here looking at this thing, I am just so happy with it. Like, look at this. Like, that is just awesome. And then, next video, it'll be the taillights. I think I might have made this thing too low. I honestly have no idea if this is even drivable. Like, this is so low. This is just insane. Like, that's the bottom of my pocket and that's tied. That is crazy, man. Holy. Like, I'm holding this at eye height. This is what I see. Okay, so last night I packed up a little early. I had some family come over, but today's a new day and I have a problem. This touches the wheel. Like that is touching the wheel right there. So I cannot turn it. So we gotta jack it up, take the wheel off, and then we gotta do the thing where we grind out that hole, make it more ovalized, and we gotta give this side a little bit more camber. I don't think you guys fully understand how low this car is. Oh my God, it's sagging more. The more it sits, the more it sags. That's awesome. So we might have to try and level this out a bit just because this side's sitting a little bit higher, but our main goal is we gotta get that wheel fixed so we can turn it. All right, so I jacked it up. Now we just gotta do the same thing where we take the 2 bolts out and then remount that one hole, make it more ovalized, give us just a little bit more camber. That should fix everything. All right, well, now that we're at this step, here are those new lug nuts I got. So, I just got black tuner lugs. I just wanted black because I think that would just make this car look a lot better. Okay, so that should fix our camber issue, hopefully. Once we get it on the ground, we'll actually be able to tell. But now I need to jack up the rear somehow and make the car just a little bit higher in this one corner. Just took some measurements. The driver's side is 1/2 inch lower than the passenger. Now, one of the big things may be the quarter panel placement because that is aftermarket and I put it on, so it may be off, but I just want the car to look level. Like if somebody, I just don't want it to like, you see 1.25 inches there and then 1 3/4 inches right there. So even if it is maybe level, I just want it to look level at that height. So I just got to grab the jack. Hopefully the jack still fits under the rear, because that'd be really shitty if it didn't fit because of the bumper, and I really don't want to have to take off the rear bumper, but hopefully I can get to the diff. I definitely know it won't fit underneath the side skirts, but somehow I need to get that wheel off. All right, so the car, it's too low. You can't put a jack under it, so I think I might either, well, further down the road, I will be buying a different jack. I need something a little bit lower, a little bit longer, so I can jack this thing up without having to drive it up onto many blocks. But we don't have that now, so we're gonna have to drive up onto a whole bunch of blocks. And to do that, you need to drive up, and then to do that, you need to have a good battery. So I got the battery charging right now, but I was just sitting here admiring this thing, and this thing is low. Like, that is awesome. All right, I got that thing installed. Okay, now I'm just gonna put in the new lug nuts that I bought because this is the best time to do it. That should hopefully fix it. There's that ride height. And then, moment of truth. That one's roughly the same. So, it will sag a bit. So that one is 2 1/16. Uh-oh. This one is not 2 1/16. That one's 1 3/4, 1 5/8. Now, this should sag a bit. Yeah, I think it's already sagging. Yeah, okay, so that's almost there. That's like 1 3/4. So all I really had to do is just bounce on it a bit and it got it to sag to where it needs to be. Okay, there. This is its ride height. I think I'm gonna leave it here because that much of a gap and then this much of a gap. So that is very similar. So as it sits more, it gets a little bit closer. Right now it's sitting at about 1/8 out. You're never gonna notice that, so I'm fine with that. And I think this thing looks mean. Like, I wish I had a better lens because it would show you guys how much camber this thing has. This is just wild. And like, I've never done this to a car before. So like, I'm also learning at the same time, like, the amount of times I've had to redo something, like even that coilover, like I put it in, pull it out, put it in, pull it out, put it in, and then by the end of it, it's right-ish. And like the camber's very close, the toe's really close, and like it's a really cool experience because I didn't know how to do it. You dive right into it, and then I did know how to do it. Okay, so this is gonna be a long video, and I hope you guys are okay with that because I try and do something and I run into another problem. I took this off, that's why it's a little wet. This, I don't have the coolant overflow tank. And I don't know how well the stock coolant gauge works over in that top right, but it was reading max, and that's not good, but I don't know how well it works. And I have that gauge, water temperature gauge, and no matter what I try, I can never get that gauge to work. It's never worked right from the go. I've rewired it about 3 times correctly. All it is like a signal, power, and a ground. It's not hard. I've wired everything else in this car. So I think it's just a shitty gauge. So I need to get all new gauges. Like, I cheaped out on gauges. I spent like $500 on 4 different gauges. I know that sounds like a lot, but like when you have them set up to be monitoring your whole entire engine and all the time and money you've spent into it, you should spend a little bit more on the management. So I'm gonna go to Lordco. I'm gonna get a new coolant overflow. It's not gonna be pretty or anything. And I'm looking to get another gauge because that kind of scared me. I had it running for a bit. I was at like the back of the car and I go sit in the car for a second and it's like all the way at hot. So I don't want that to happen because it could just be a false alarm, but I don't want to risk it, you know? So off to the store we go. Okay, so I went to Lordco and I went in there with intentions to buy 2 things. I needed the coolant reservoir and a new coolant gauge. They didn't have either, but somehow I managed to spend $30. I got a couple cans of brake clean, you always need that. Also got some zip ties and some wire loom because I have a feeling we're gonna have to take apart pillar gauge setup that I have. I have those 3 gauges because I do want to do some testing on the gauge because it's never worked. Even right out of the box, it's never worked. I've already tried wiring it 3 times, but I'm gonna try one more time. So I got the cable ties and the wire loom just to clean it up when I'm back there because I have a feeling I didn't do a very good job doing that the first time. I just took everything apart and I was like wringing it out, the wires, making sure that everything is wired correctly. It seems to be wired correctly. Brender's over here, he's helping. So that's where the sender goes to. If you guys can see underneath there, down there. You can kind of see it. That's where that wire goes to. So that's all wired correctly. So what we might be thinking is that there's an air bubble right near the sensor. So we're gonna try bleeding the whole entire system again. So from Lordco, there's the electronic temperature replacement. So that's the guy that we need to install. And then in this box, we got the coolant reservoir tank. And then I also just went and picked up one of these 11-piece funnel kits. So it seals in there and it's a big funnel. And then that way, when you're pouring and doing your bleeding, that the bubble, when it bubbles up, it doesn't splash out onto the ground, it stays inside the funnel. So I'm gonna install that one sensor down into there, and then hopefully it works. There's the old one right there. You guys can tell it's a little green and yucky. Here's the new one, nice clean brass. Okay, I got that nice bright new shiny one in there. So now we're just gonna install this guy. Probably gonna bolt this thing up, something like that. Oh gosh, this thing is ugly. I know this thing doesn't look good. And you know what, this is temporary. I plan on getting a stainless steel one. I just want to have one now. We're gonna turn it on and then hopefully we get a temperature out of that and we get the coolant bled. As you guys can see, that one's going up. This one is staying right below there. It hasn't moved. All right, I have fully dissected everything and nothing is working. Doesn't matter how much testing I do, nothing is working. So I think the whole entire gauge is shot. And I honestly, when I went to Lordco last, I got it priced out and it's too expensive to buy another. This is not a good brand. This is Autometer. I would not recommend it. I've always had problems with them. They're just not quality. My last 240 I had AEM, so I'm just gonna leave it there and I'm gonna buy all new gauges. So I'm gonna try and get all nice matching new gauges for this car. I think it'll bring everything together. I'm gonna redo all of the wiring and I'm gonna do a nice gauge setup. We're gonna drop the car, take it outside because I honestly am not 100% sure if it's gonna turn. So I'm super excited to see how this thing looks outside. So the main thing is I'm not gonna try and run it. I know that it's fully bled, but until I get a gauge, I don't want to run the car too long just because I'm scared. I don't know if anything's going wrong with the engine. Moral of the story, guys, is don't cheap out on gauges because if you buy cheap gauges like I did and you run the car for too long, you could overheat it and just blow your engine just like that. You guys, look how much camber this has. This is wild. I don't want to put on the front bumper because if I want to jack it up, I have to take it back off. So I'm just going to leave it off for now. All right, well, the car runs now and it doesn't scrape. I pulled out once and it kind of rubbed a little bit, but it didn't rub enough to concern me. So that's good. So basically we're done lowering the car. The next thing I want to do is taillights, so I'm going to get started on that tomorrow. Hopefully it takes a day, might take a little bit longer than a day because the last time I tried it, I shattered all 3 pieces of the taillights. So that never worked out too well. So I got to be extra careful this time, but you guys are definitely going to like that video. That video is more relatable that anybody can do because right now it's costing me just around $100, whereas this stuff, the 240 stuff, you need a 240 number one, and then you need to buy the parts to do it. But yeah, so the taillight video you guys are definitely going to enjoy. So that's all I'm going to be doing for the car in this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it, and I hope I see you guys next time. See you later. Oh man, I think there's another leak.